Hello everyone and welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka That Tellest Guy. We are going to be returning to the Floating Islands of Aeratul today to look at the first of our maps in this zone. I did a little bit of work outside of the stream that we did last week, so you can see we've actually got a whole second island here. We've got cliffs surrounding the first island. We've got ropes surrounding, the just outside of the border of those islands to protect people from going overboard and things like that. And basically what we're going to try and do is figure out some ways to accentuate the way this looks. Originally I had thought that what we were going to do was kind of take the cliffs that we had and send them to the background, just because typically that's what I'll do. But you'll see if I play with that idea now, and I flatten it to the background, there's a lot of work that we would have to do, and it honestly doesn't look too bad on either the island that we're kind of like starting the adventure on, and this island over here on the right. Really, I don't think is necessary. You kind of get a sense that things are going, in a downward trajectory. So I don't think that we need to go too crazy with that. I put a lot of cordis trees. Those are the enchanted trees that help the islands to fly, on the east map. Including like a fork that kind of leads two roads either further east or further north. I was putting some thought into the way that this map would work. Well, the zone, I should say. Part of the issue that I think that we're going to run into is when we expand this map on the east, or this island, I should say. The issue that we're going to run into is nobody's really going to realize that it's a floating island. So we'll have to figure out some ways to kind of accentuate that. There might be gaps in the island that, just have open air beneath it and you can see like clouds and stuff like that. But, it might just be one of those things where you can kind of substitute like a regular forest or plains map into this section. You can either use it as the ground way far below, or you can use it for another section of the floating islands. And it's nice to have that kind of flexibility, but just something I noticed. So what we're going to do in today's stream is we're going to try and figure out some of the points of interest that we're going to slap down into this work. So one of the things that we can do is, I had mentioned last week that what this is kind of like telling the story of this area of the world of Tellest. And I had already kind of conceptualized this first island that we find people on as sort of like the training island for the youths of Aeratul, or this place in Aeratul, so that they're aware of like what kind of dangers there are in this section of the world. They know that, hey, there's nothing but wide blue yonder down below these islands, so you have to be very careful. And then I was thinking, one of the things about that island that we talked about last week was the kind of like Iron Man-esque armor. And I was thinking that could be a point of interest of sorts. And we've just seen cordis trees, but that's not to say that you can't have trees of other varieties. So I had thought maybe what we could do is have a tree on the training island and then have, like a discarded piece of armor, which, someone who just recently landed on this island, if this is the starting zone, could kind of investigate to figure out, okay, this is what this does. This is what this means. Inkarnate only lets you have kind of like the breastplate, so the DM is going to have to kind of explain away a little bit of the details. I couldn't tell if that was Luna sighing. She's on the floor, just chilling out under a towel. All right, so let's find a tree that we can use. Nope. My computer does not like me today. Tell you what, we don't have a lot of pine trees, and though it's kind of weird, I think we're going to put one on this floating island. Well, you know what? I don't know necessarily that that's the right way to do things, because you're not going to be able to see a lot of the details that I want to put underneath. So we've got the thick old trees is what we're using for that. I don't know that I necessarily want to do that. palm trees don't make a lot of sense. Well, I mean, they could, in theory. Let's try with the summer trees real quick, and we'll see if we can find something that's a little bit more sparse. And dial it back to 60, and we'll put it something like here. And what we're going to do is kind of tuck a piece of that armor over here. So let's see what we've got. So you'll see the Gothic horror set is where we usually draw from. There's not really... The problem with that is I don't want a full set of standing armor. So what we had done was, at one point, we had taken the helmet off of the armor and the stamp set so that we could play with something a little bit more. And what we'll do is we'll tuck this underneath the tree. It'll just kind of be standing up. My computer really doesn't like me today. Let me see if there's some stuff I can close. Close out of Discord, close out of Steam. Alright, hopefully that speeds things up a little bit. We know that we don't need that on the top layer. Okay, perfect. Work with me here. Okay, and we're just going to tuck it under a little bit further. Whew. All right, give me a second. I'm going to Control-Delete and check my task manager and see what's running so slowly. Or what's causing my computer to run so slowly, I should say. It doesn't like OBS for some reason right now. Yeah, OBS is running really poorly right now. I'll tell you what. Let's do this, because the second worst thing is how badly the Google Chrome is running. So let's save this real quick. I'll close out of Chrome and reopen and see if it gives me any better experience. I lost my armor. Well, you know what? Doesn't matter because we're closing this anyway. And then we'll pick up that armor as we need to. Just getting a sense for if it's everywhere. I feel like it was just in Chrome. Okay. I can already feel like it's playing a little nicer with us. Okay, we've got the armor again. I think that we'll be in good shape. I'm actually going to adjust this one more time because I don't like the way the tree is facing. And I think that we can get a little bit more real estate out of what we're doing over here. If only the darn thing would listen. So we got like a nice little gap over here that we can throw the armor into. A little bit of a headache amongst all the other things going on. Let's see if we can mess with the contrast and see if that comes through at all. Contrast, no. Maybe brightness. No, still kind of losing some of it there. So let's shift it so it actually comes a little bit further out from the tree. Is that a sneeze or a cough? God bless you anyway. Whew. Man, what is going on here? keep it there for now. It shouldn't be too crazy. Like, the map itself is not too much because we've got everything locked down. Everything is grouped up, so it shouldn't be causing too many problems there. So we've got our one point of interest there. Technically, the rope bridge could be our second. Let's play with a couple of things real quick. I think I talked last time about how I was a little bit nervous about putting like a boat, like a floating boat, in this area because I was worried that it would kind of make this area feel like water instead of the sky. But we might be able to negotiate that a little bit if we get some other islands in the background and stuff like that. Let's try with a boat real quick. Whew. The fact that it's not casting a shadow helps a lot, I think. Or is it? There we go. So no shadow at all at this point. Bump it a little bit closer over to here. And let's see if we can't get like a pier or a dock. This again might kind of mess with what we're trying to tell of this area. But we'll play with it. We'll see if we end up with something we can use. If the darn thing would play nice. Yeah, and it's not like every now and then the mouse hates me, and it's not the mouse. Oof. Alright, try something like that. And then what we're going to do is the fence that we have doesn't really make sense to be closed off like that anymore. So once I can get this darn thing working. Let's go to the boat. Scooch that to the side a little bit. Okay. I might fix that a little bit more later, but let's open up the training bridge rope fence and we'll grab. We're going to enter the group and make some corrections. If the darn thing will let us. Did you hear somebody beep a horn, Luna? So if we turn that a little bit. Scooch that over. Turn that a little bit more. Okay, so that's a good one there. Let's turn the, I think we're going to lose this one, because that one's going to be a little unnecessary, but these two, if we turn them, if we can turn them, those ones down a little bit. that's a good start. So we've got our 3 points of interest now, and then we'll throw another point of interest over here on the main island just so that there's something going on. And then outside of the points of interest, we'll take a little stop, and I will try and finesse some kind of floating island there in the background. So maybe what we can do is grab what we already have, and we're going to mess with the opacity a little bit. And the placement's got to change a lot because the size needs to go down to reflect the distance from what we have up here. So we'll test with this real quick. That's the background, so that's not going to work anyway. But the foreground is showing that it's smaller, so that should work. Let's see what we have. So if we do the background, we throw something down there. And then let's grab our cliffs and we'll just make them half the size. And same thing here, we'll change the opacity. So that's kind of going to replicate like cloud cover and haze and stuff like that. What were we at, 75? So yeah, we'll do 75, and then eventually what we're going to have to do is turn this into the background layer. I think we might be able to get away with not doing it, but let's just play first, and then we'll clean things up as we go. So I kind of use the jagged look as like a guideline of sorts, but we're going to end up filling it out a little bit so that it doesn't look as wonky as it does. Helps me feel like I'm getting a little bit more of a natural shape. Okay, and our last one here. We'll turn that a little bit more. Okay, and we're going to fill in some more of this area over here. And we might be doing 2 of these islands to reflect that, you know, there's stuff going on besides these 2 higher up islands that are kind of connected. But the other one, maybe we'll do a different kind of like distance illusion. And I think after I'm done with the map stream tonight, I'm going to try and play a little bit of Spider-Man. I am not sure how I'm not running on fumes yet. Maisie's the one who's been waking me up recently, and she's been just adamant about waking up and drinking some water and going outside and getting comfy in the other room. You know what I'm going to do? I don't really like... I want to build into those cliffs and not have to take away. So what we'll do is something like that instead. And you can see because of the opacity shift in the cliffs, we need to make some adjustments there too. Okay, you can do it. I was doing a little bit of practice work on the next maps that we're going to be working on. So this week is our new zone because we really haven't done anything in the Sky Islands or anything like that. But next week we're going to be returning to Versailles Varai, and that'll be, I think, our first. No, you know what? No, I'm talking out my butt. It'll be our first 2x2 zone, where we have, like a northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, because we kind of made some weird shifts in certain places, like the forest zone, our first zone that we really played with. That I gotta change that too. We ended up going north, center, south, and then northeast, but we don't have an east map yet, so we have to make some tweaks here and there with that kind of stuff. So next week, maybe later this week, depending on where we end up going with things, we'll have our first 2x2 zone. And then the next map that we're going to be doing after that is, we haven't done anything like it yet, so I'm excited, but same thing as I do every time I'm working on like a new zone and like trying to learn new techniques and stuff. A little nervous about it. We're gonna do a crumbling bridge. I've seen somebody else do something like it, and we're gonna try and do a version of that we kind of try and make our own. And is that going under? Crud. I just learned something that I do not like, and that is that we are editing the Training Island rope group. Not good. Let's do this. Let's see if it'll let us take these out. No, not gonna let us do it. Rats. Maybe it'll let me make these into a different group. And if not, lessons learned. Let's see, so let's see, we've got it's just another thing within the rope fence group. That's fine. Don't worry about it. We won't tell anybody. All right, let's go in here, do a little bit more drawing into these cliffs, because again, they are kind of semi-transparent because of the, we don't need it to be like that. We need it to be the smooth brush again. Ah, rats. I have noticed another tragedy of doing it this way, and that is the overlap that we're going to end up with. Well, I think we can fix it. We'll play by ear for now. And most of the cliffy bits, you shouldn't see it. I think it really is so insignificant. You have to really look hard to see what's going on there. Right? I feel like that's not too terrible. If we really needed to, we could get rid of all that and do it again, but I don't think we need to. rid of it with the water. It's not really water. Although it certainly looks like it there. And let's do one of our clouds again. And we're actually going to do that even further down. So we're going to throw it into the background and see if that helps us. Let's actually blur it a little bit. I don't even notice if anything is happening there. Let's change the opacity a little bit further. I'm going to try and take out some of that blue that we have there. Cover that up a little bit there and throw that to background. Fills in some of that area. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is it kind of looks like it's just jutting out from this island. And to try and sell the idea a little bit more, I think what we'll do is another small island over here. So let's actually leave that training group and do something over here. Luna's just chilling. Good times. With this one, we're going to try things a little bit different. I am going to make it a little bit like oblong. Maybe we can even make it so that like part of it shows up underneath the bridge. So we're not even going to touch the foreground layer. We're just going to go with the cliffs. So we were at 15, and we've got a blur I don't need. Let's do 10 is way small. But you know what? It serves its purpose. So we were at 75. Let's do like 68. We'll see if we can still do what we need to there. So part of me wants to do the left and right arrows where the comma and the mouse are. That might jut a little too wildly, but we'll play with what we have for now. Come on, computer, you can do it. Nope. Placement first, and then rotation. Placement first, and then rotation. I just said, Mike. Why don't you listen? One of the things that I think we're going to have to do, these rope bridges are at the default, so we'll bump them up. Shouldn't cause too many problems for us, except you'll notice that the we do lose a little bit because of the grid layer, so we'll leave it at 3. That should play a little bit nicer, I think. We'll bump the grid layer up to 4, and then everything still looks nice. So the reason that we did that was because the bridge, or the island that we're building down there is also, or was also at 0. It is at 0. We might change it so it's a little bit further back, but so one of the bad things about having it in this position, I don't really know. which way this is supposed to be facing. I feel like it's that way. Let's get one of the bigger ones. And let's... Yeah, okay. So it's perfect. Connect these two. And we'll grab both of them and move them over here. Okay, not really going to see a lot of the stuff that's going on down there, but I can imagine. This darn thing is fighting me every step of the way. Let's save it just because it is fighting rather hard. How's it going otherwise? I think I was talking about it, but I just riffed off into my own thoughts. The bridge map that we're going to do, we're going to infuse some Tellest areas into that idea as well. There's a like a snowy area in the Tellest universe called Crassius, and we're going to make that bridge very close to like the capital city of Crassius, and that'll let us do some fun things with the area. Verify. Yep. I really do not want to play with that one. That one I want to use a little bit more sparingly. Work with me here. A darn fine bridge, you say? Yes. Yes. Thank you. I like that it connects into the rope fence. Me too. All right, let's keep it going. Got this little cliffside here. Let's start to make it a little bit of a different shape, so that it's kind of got like that oblong feel. I don't want it to look like a straight up circle. I want it to look like it's naturally forming. One of the other things that we're gonna have to do is throw a cordistry on both of these things so that they look like they have a reason to be flying. Let me see, I feel like that one is not quite connected, so we need to move that down a smidge. And then that one needs to follow suit. I'm sorry, did you say suit? No, I said suit. I was narrating Rihanna's thoughts there. Okay, don't want that one. I don't like it. There's a small one over here. I gotta figure out what we're gonna do with the variants for this. I think I'm gonna do like a sunset version where like the sky below is a little bit more like orange, and we might make a little bit of like a glow on the islands themselves as well. But I think that'll look nice. And maybe we'll do something where like the bridge is half gone or something like that. We typically do that when there's bridges involved somewhere. See, this is the perfect time to involve those kind of pieces because you can't see them. Let's see, pull that out like this. A slight turn, a bigger turn. No, 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 no. Speaking of no. Figure out a way to make sense of bringing this back. So let's do that. Get rid of the ugly one that we have. Just a little small one there. I don't like you. Let's start to make our way back to this one too. Let's see if we make adjustments to both sides. We can make it feel a little bit more natural. That's almost a good fit. I think once we throw the ground on there, it'll look even better. So we had the size at 50 for the other one. Let's move it back to 40 for this one. And we had it at 68 when we were doing these guys. So let's actually going to put on the Parvo glove. Let me be a little bit more precise. But I'm going to save first just so that I don't mess up all this work that we just did. I think what I'll do is 2 sections. I'll do everything south of the bridge and then everything north of the bridge. So I want to try and keep it so that I have as much that I can work on as possible without having to go over things a second time. Because again, right now I can go like that a bunch of times without having to worry about anything. But if I lift and put back a couple of times, you can see that the opacity keeps changing. Let's see what we've got. That there, which is, well, that's the background. Yeah, it does look like it's smaller. Okay, so one more time. Head back in here, try and get as much real estate as we can so that I have a little bit more precision. It's going to be a little bit of extra work, but now the only other thing that I can see is we are aware that my computer hates me right now, so it might fight with me and say that like that. So it said that I stopped drawing. I think it's pretty subtle there. Like, you're not going to really, if you're the player or the game master, you're not going to really pay attention to something like that. So I feel like we can kind of get away with that. The nice thing is, because it's so far, down beneath what we're seeing now, it kind of disguises things naturally. And it's okay to see like a little bit of that overlap where things look a little bit darker or animated or anything like that. Come back down here. Again, try and work on those edges so that we don't have to work on them later and have any overlaps or anything like that. And you can tell that it hasn't lifted up again since, so I've lucked out because it only says 1 change down there. Once I lift up again, or the computer reads that I lifted up again, that's when it's going to tell me to go pound sand. And we'll do maybe a little bit of cloud cover on here as well. Again, just to kind of like give the sense that there's some depth to the map. And we've got an island that's far below the one that we have on either side of these bridges, or this bridge rather. So one of the things that we have to do after this is still figure out that last point of interest that we're going to put on the eastern map. So if anybody's got any ideas, more power to you, if you want to tell me. There's something very calming about just filling in these spaces like this. This map ended up being a much more cozy experience than I'm sure anybody expected. Right up until you fall to your death. I still have to group these cliffs too and make sure that the system sees it all as one object. All right, that's pretty darn good. So we'll start with that, and then we'll go up there and do that one up there. All that with just 2 changes. And with a headache. And I definitely think that adding things like these have helped it to look a little bit more like, you know, they're islands and not, you know, like a piece of something jutting off into, you know, off from the side of the main islands. It doesn't look like the water, in my opinion. That is one other thing that we'll do. We'll do a version of this likely without the islands here, because one of the things that we're going to do is a version where we have the land way far below. So we're going to have to play with that, and in doing so, we very likely lose the work that we did here. But the good news is, because we haven't thrown these cliffs to the background, they're just locked in where they are, and at a lower layer we could essentially just do what I'm doing now again, and it doesn't take a lot of work. Like, this is not a tremendous amount of effort that's having to go into this, so we could do the background layer with a stamp or something like that, and then just draw over everything here. So not too shabby. Gives us some ideas for what to do. So yeah, we would have the sunset version, and then we would have something like that. I think at some point I'd really like to see if I can't put like wings on that boat and maybe make like an airship, like a bigger airship that would look like one of our bigger boats that the Inkarnate stuff does. Let's save again. One change, but it was a long change. And there's going to have to be like little details that we're going to have to put on it. Flocking and things like that. Otherwise Matt will yell at me. Let's do one of these cordis trees. Twist it a little bit. we're actually going to bring that up a smidge because it sits so much taller than everything else. And then we're going to move the size down to maybe like 18. And we're going to disguise that so that it's kind of coming out from under the main island. Okay, and one of the things we have to do is make sure that it doesn't, like if I had it under the cliffs, you would see that it ends up sneaking out past that, so we need to make sure that as it's coming out through that left side, it doesn't sink underneath there. Okay, so I'll do something like that. And let's over here, we'll do the same thing, but we're going to size it down to 10. And we'll change the opacity to this to make it even less. Something like that. That looks nice, I think. Okay. Alrighty, let's save real quick, and then let me think about what to do. So we've got a couple of points of interest, not including those islands themselves. We've got the sky skiff over there, which I'll try and see if there's any other ways for me to make it look like it would be flying instead of sitting on water or anything like that. We've got the bridge, we've got the armor. So this place is, it's known for the people who live in this area. The map, like the art that we've seen, they use griffins for travel in cases where they don't use like the fire armor to traverse things. So I wonder if there's some kind of tracks that we can use to kind of signify, like, it's nothing that's on this map in particular, but you know, like, hey, there's tracks that lead to the north, and it's, you know, big chicken footprints. So let's see what kind of animal tracks we have. We do have chicken tracks. So let's get these guys, and we're just going to make them part of the road. So we're going to change the opacity and definitely change the size. We want these to be pretty significantly big. That opacity's definitely got to change again, though. I think that's a right, and the other one would be a left. Do something like that. This might not even really be the point of interest. This might just be like a bonus something that we do. It doesn't necessarily have to be the griffins either. It could be something like a basilisk or something. We've got that now. Let us think of something else. Let's see. So the tracks themselves don't really do a lot, but maybe we could do like a feather or something like that if we can find something like that in the stamp set. We do have a quill feather. That's pretty gigantic. So let's drop that down somewhat. We'll do the same thing that we did with the armor. Still kind of big. Kind of hide it underneath one of these trees, and that way you don't really see like the quill or anything. Do a couple of feathers. Luna is sleepy dreaming. She's kicking and stuff. What other stuff could we use to kind of evoke the idea that there's a griffin in the area? Let's see. I can't remember if there's sticks or branches or whatever. Got the firewood bundles. They don't really do what I need it to. Carrying stick is kind of not doing what I want it to. What about a broom? Can I make this work? I feel like that's not quite jagged enough. There's like a dead tree or fallen tree or something like that that we should be able to use. Where are you hiding? Got fallen trees, split logs. I think the fallen trees we'll end up using. You do something like that, it looks like a branch that just fell. So we'll say that there was a little bit of a collision here. That one doesn't quite look like it. That one still does. And let's change the feather color, because the blue doesn't really make a lot of sense. So let's try and change the hue, maybe the saturation, the brightness. So 180, 30, 134. I'll make that a little darker because of the shade of everything. A little bit of feathers, a little bit of branches. I think as far as like the basics of the map goes, I'm pretty content with it. I might still tweak some settings. We're still going to do the variants for sure, but I think for all intents and purposes forgot to hit the button to take it away. So I think what we're going to do is, there was a map that I saw that kind of had this idea of like this big long bridge going over this chasm. We're going to make a much smaller chasm because our maps are horizontally configured. And he had lava, or she had lava at the bottom of theirs and everything like that. I think Crassius is, again, kind of like a snowy like area. So I think what we might do is kind of, we'll play around with like a filter where it looks a little bit more wintry. So we'll do something like this. I don't know definitively that we're just going to have like a ton of snow everywhere. We might have like a layer of frost. And the reason for that is because you'll notice that right in the dead center of the bridge, we actually have one of our sigils from the Tellest universe thrown in here to give a little bit more character. It's kind of indicating, hey, you're crossing into Vesa territory. So snow would kind of defeat the purpose of that if we covered it entirely in snow. Now we can probably get away. We're just playing around. We're not really doing anything here. We could kind of play around with it a little bit, and we could go on the very low ends of, you know, the opacity and cover some things here. So if we're in the foreground, you know, we can throw a little bit of that here and there, but we have to play smart with it and things like that. We're going to add some cracks to the ground over here, and have like a darker, you know, terrain over here and things like that. Should be, in theory, a relatively easy map once you get to, you know, once you get some of the craziness figured out, because to add a lot of depth, what we're going to be doing is multiple cliff layers that kind of start somewhere like here and fight their way up, and then far down below we'll do, you know, some depth perception tricks and add like some snow down there or something like that. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, and then we'll just see what we can pull off from there. I think I'm going to take a real quick break because I need to get some Advil in me, and then I will come up and we'll take a look at another like hour session of Spider-Man or something like that. So I will real quick, let's close the show. So on the screen right now, you'll see all the places that you can find Tellest content. Tellest.com is the website. You can find all of our great stuff there. It's kind of like our link tree. It shows you all the stuff that Tellest does, but this video also does, or this part of the stream also does a good job of pointing you out to certain places. So you've got the Patreon, patreon.com/Tellest, which is where we put these maps, the low res, the high res, the variants. If you can support us on there, that'd be fantastic. We do art pieces on there too, and we also have a sticker club and a bookmark club. So if you want to support us and get some awesome stuff along the way, that's how to do it. Any of these videos that you want to see after Twitch expires them from their platform, you can find that on youtube.com/@worldoftellest. And if you want to see us live, really the only place to do that is here, twitch.tv/thattellestguy. Our Etsy channel, tellest.etsy.com, is where you can find a lot of our physical goodies. So you can find full jumbo maps of our battle maps. They're like 18, I think it's like 18 by 36 inches or something like that. It's very close to the, you know, like an inch a block kind of thing. Stickers, bookmarks, posters. We still have a couple of mugs up there, and then Rihanna has also got her handcrafted wands up there. If you just want to see her wands, you can go to weirdwitchwands.com. That's WYRD. Same thing, by the way, if you go to Weird Witch Wands on TikTok, you can see the making of her wands in some cases, and kind of like promo videos of how they look and everything. We are going to be going to a convention next week, so there's a good chance that a lot of them are going to be going soon. So if you want to grab hold of them before any of them get snatched up, this next week is the best time to do that. And then finally, the other TikTok channel that you can follow is the TikTok for our Aminals. That is Tales of Tellest, TAILS of Tellest, to see Zelda and Maisie and Luna. That is going to be it for me for a couple of minutes. Yes, chocolate milk. So maybe like 10 minutes, and then I'll be back up to play again, and we'll see how far we can take Pete and Miles. I miss you.